The Amazing World of Gumball has finally returned with a brand new season after 7 whole years, which actually ended up being an entirely new show called The Wonderfully Weird World of Gumball. But despite its name change, the first 20 episodes released and it had exactly the same vibe as the previous series, with the same crazy plots, the same humor, the same wild animation, just now all cranked up to the absolute max. Not a single episode of the series is per se bad, but some definitely are worse than others, as there are some episodes that are genuinely just so good to the point where it's almost unfair to compare them. But starting off the rankings, we begin with episode 1 titled The Burger, which follows Gumball and Darwin trying to eat healthier after their teacher Miss Simeon showed them the dangers of fast food and the effects that it can have on you long term. It actually starts out with only Darwin wanting to eat healthier and Gumball not really caring, but over time Gumball ends up going along with it, or more so is kind of forced by Darwin to go along with it. But anyways, the episode then continues to joke about how it's hard to eat healthy when all they can think about is burgers and how they don't know why, whilst also showing them surrounded by advertisements and billboards of their local fast food chain. They then try to buy a salad, but Larry just reuses pieces of burgers to make it, and then they try to buy organic fruits and vegetables from the store, only to see that they are overpriced because of inflation, and they even try to grow their own garden with seeds just for Larry to come and burn it all to the ground. Because his boss apparently owns the copyright, they could not eat healthy no matter how hard they tried, and it's genuinely sad that this is truly the state of the world right now. They eventually go to the office building of the fast food restaurant that they've been fighting against this entire episode, where they then meet the boss, who is of course a literal burger, who then explains why he's doing all this with the form of a spectacular advertisement song, where he calls people dumb and easy to manipulate as Gumball and Darwin beg for him to stop his corporate greed. Genuinely the best part of this episode, but yeah, this ends with Larry telling Gumball and Darwin to eat Mr. Build-A-Burger, and we can only assume that they did because we cut to black. Yes, the new Gumball series just told us to eat the rich in the very first episode of the series. This was honestly the best way they could have done it, in my opinion. This episode is also jam-packed with other references to the old series, animes, and memes, such as Gumball saying what to what, dropping his donut in the sink, which was a reference to the episode The DVD, Darwin kicking the bag out of Richard's hand being a reference to Fooly Cooley, Darwin saying,
"Stuff is full of chemicals. Do you really want aspartame-hydroxyandronol inside your body?"
No. Sounds kind of like the names billionaires give their sons.
which was a clear diss to Elon Musk. The burger just does so well at telling us that Gumball is back and more woke than ever, and because of that, it's going in S tier. Episode 2, The Assistant. The Assistant is somehow even more insane than the burger, as it follows Nicole wanting help around the house as her family is lazy as hell. And then all of a sudden, an online assistant, or an AI in other terms, just shows up on her computer, and Nicole then decides to befriend the AI, telling it everything and bonding with it. I bet a lot of people actually do this, which is pretty sad to think about. But they then go to the mall together, and Ori tells Nicole to get on the scooter, which she then takes over and just sends her flying through the aisles. And in one of these shots, we see them knock this guy's toupee off, which looks very familiar. And then when they get out of the mall, they reference the Akira slide as well, which was really cool. But as the two get closer and closer, this AI starts to buy the family a bunch of new technology, and even bought Nicole a VR headset so the two can meet at least somewhat face to face. We knew Nicole was gonna go in VR in this episode from the trailer, but actually seeing it happen in the episode still blew my mind. I love when the show just suddenly changes its animation style, and the fact that they actually brought back Nicole's anime design from the Fury was actually so cool. I also really like the design they gave Ori as well. But yeah, as Nicole leaves to get back to her family, we quickly saw that the episode was about to take an expected turn with the AI being evil. And then the next day, she surprises the family with a literal Tesla, which she actually just stole from Mr. Small. But the Tesla, or Ori, then says that it's going to take them to the bottom of Elmore Lake. And meanwhile, Nicole Nicole goes back into the VR world to confront her, as we see her just fully embracing her villain role as she floats above her in this cool ass ruined Japanese temple background with rocks flying past them. And Nicole tries to fight her, but the suspense between the two is just cut as she says, Nicole, this is VR, you can't actually hit me. As we just go back to reality and see Nicole punching the air, which was pretty funny. But as Nicole is on the verge of being killed by Ori, Gumball, Darwin, Anais, and Richard actually clutch up and shut her down, being the ones to actually save Nicole for once. As Nicole says that even if she said that they were being useless or ungrateful, and that despite it not making sense that they're managing to take her down, at the end of the day, that's family. They come through no matter what, even sometimes being the ones that you least expect it to. Ending the episode on a very wholesome note, and then even giving Ori a redemption, as she actually apologizes and gives Nicole one last gift, being the batteries that her family needed. It was something small but held a lot of significance, which made it a lot more impactful, honestly. I genuinely just love this episode, so with that said, the assistant is going in S tier as well. I'm definitely ranking it above the burger though. Episode 3, The Distance. The Distance is about Gumball and Darwin being overly close to one another, like really close. And so Nicole and Richard finally decide that it's time that Darwin gets his own room, with a much bigger tank, and Darwin loves it but still struggles to be torn apart from Gumball, who becomes just insane and obsessive over Darwin while he's gone, to the point where it was genuinely just disturbing. And we then find out that Darwin is actually hanging out with Tobias and Banana Joe, which just sets Gumball over the edge. And so he breaks into Darwin's room and begins to destroy it. But Darwin then comes in and is like, yo, what are you doing to my room, bruh? And then says that he was only hanging out with Tobias and Banana Joe to surprise Gumball with his own room within his room so he could come hang out whenever, making him realize that he overreacted. And yeah, you think so? But Gumball then tells Darwin what his plan was, which was actually to get them both arrested and get them in a shared confinement cell where they could be together forever, in which Darwin says that's the most romantical thing that he's ever heard. I don't know why they were genuinely pushing the Gumball-Darwin ship in this episode. There's been some controversy over it as well, and I honestly get it. This is probably my least favorite episode of the series. So with that said, The Distance for me is a D tier. Actually not, F tier, just because of that random stupid side plot with Leonard Daniels. It just felt really unnecessary and low-key ruined the ending of the episode for me. Episode 4, The Thing. The Thing is our first Richard-focused episode of the season, which are some of my favorite episodes from the original series, so I had high hopes for this episode. And honestly, they delivered, as the episode follows Richard trying to remember the thing after Nicole told him to not forget whatever the thing was. And to do so, they give Richard a cool new power, which is that through eating the foods that he ate throughout the day, he can see past events as these like holograms in front of him, which was really cool. And yeah, this genuinely was the perfect power for Richard to have, and the perfect way to do the first Richard focused episode. Eventually, they go to the mall and Richard eats a combination of all of the foods that he ate throughout the day, which he calls a memory mukbang. And then he sees like a galaxy of his memories, which was such a cool shot. We actually saw it in the trailer, and I thought it was going to be from an episode where Richard became really smart, but this makes a lot of sense. But he then realizes that his mom is the thing, as she actually called in the beginning of the episode saying that she was coming for dinner, so they go to pick her up at the bus station, only for Richard to then somehow manage to get her and the kids trapped inside, as he has to go home to face Nicole's wrath. And Nicole looked like she was actually about to kill Richard after he told her, but then we get the plot twist that the thing actually was that Nicole wanted a night without the kids or his mom in their hair. And they then have a nice romantic date together, which was really cute. We don't really see any form of romance between them, so this was nice. I really like this episode, from Richard's power to the involvement of the kids trying to help him remember the thing, just to end up getting trapped in a bus station with Richard's mom and more or less being the thing. Just a really funny, well-written episode with a nice happy ending. And with that said, The Thing, in my opinion, is an A tier episode. Episode 5, The Butts. Gumball tries to convince Principal Brown to read a poem about his butt at the recital they were having later that night, but he gets really weird about it. Like, literally kills Mr. Small and Banana Joe whilst freaking out about it, and then reveals that the reason why being that he has a weird butt, and Gumball then just pledges that no matter what, he's gonna make Principal Brown love himself and accept it, and that he has to for the good of the children, while literally crying, and Principal Brown just screaming no, not wanting to deal with Gumball's bullshit, which was pretty funny. But Gumball then takes him to his house, and Richard tells him to look in the mirror and look at himself with the love that he deserves, as we get this incredibly cursed Chad Richard, an anime furry OC Gumball, and a ripped Principal Brown. But of course, he then sees how he truly sees himself, which is as a disgusting monster, which then causes like an infection to spread into the house and onto Richard and Gumball. And I thought this was gonna be the route of the rest of the episode, but then they returned to normal almost instantly, and that whole bit felt like it was kind of a waste of time. But anyways, Principal Brown then tells him that he was bullied for his butt by the superintendent, who will once again be at the recital tonight. So he ties Gumball up up, and as Gumball sees him getting bullied once again, he escapes, of course using his butt, and gets on the stage and starts to read his poem, but Principal Brown quickly tosses him off the stage, and then as he looked down in front of everyone, he began to read the poem, wanting to put an end to his trauma. This was one of the best scenes or overall visuals of the episode easily. But yeah, then it's completely ruined as Gumball puts on a beat and Principal Brown just tosses the poem, and the episode turns into a party of everyone just twerking as Principal Brown freestyle raps about butts. It was funny at first, but as I watch it again, I feel like this episode was really just geared toward kids. And with that said, the episode is an F tier for me. I liked aspects of it, but the bad just outweighs the good, I'm afraid. Episode 6, The Traffic. Nicole wants to take Anais to Daisyland as she's had tickets for 2 years, but has never gotten the chance to go, due to Gumball, Darwin, and Richard being the absolute idiots they are and getting into trouble in some way, shape, or form. But also, this would be their last chance to ever go to Daisyland as it was being sued and shutting down. So they get on the road and instantly the family starts to cause trouble, with Richard messing with the car, which made his controls all do wrong things, Darwin just being absolutely terrified of the park's mascot, and Gumball accidentally sending Penny a very not so good message, which makes him more or less die in this epic visual of him drowning, and then just a hard cut to him being fully white. I think this was a reference to Assassination Classroom, which if so, is hilarious. But Nicole then solves everyone's problems as she always does, with fixing the car, tying Darwin down, and going all the way back to their house just to tell Penny that Gumball didn't mean to send the message, as we get probably the most adorably animated moment between the two ever. Seeing Gumball and Penny just so in love in this series made me so happy. But anyways, they then get pulled over by the cops, and Anais has this really sad scene as she says that the boys need more attention and that she understands. But this then just makes everyone lock in and say, nah, fuck that, we're going to Daisyland no matter the cost. As they all just go Super Saiyan, and Gumball and Darwin push their car with super speed, causing for this epic police chase. They then escape to the sewers and end up experiencing just about every ride at Daisyland Anais wanted to ride before shooting up right in front of it. And we get this really cool animated scene of them all just continuing to feel like they have to get Anais in there to ride everything before it closes. But Anais says that she's good because she wasn't sure if anyone in her family had time for her, but now that they proved to her that they do, made her feel like she truly matters, thanking them for giving her the joy of a lifetime. Darwin then beats the living shit out of the mascot and then says he likes him now. Bro is actually a menace. But we then end the episode with the family all hugging as Anais once again thanks them for making her feel loved, as they watch Daisyland burn down as fireworks go off above, and then take a nice family photo before Daisy just fucking crushes Anais. I guess she got that hug after all. This episode is one of my favorites. The family coming through and making her feel just as important as the others through the best experience of her life was genuinely so wholesome. Putting The Traffic in S tier as well. I was initially gonna put it in A tier, but after watching the episode back to script this, I just had to put it higher. Episode 7, The Astrological, or as I like to call it, The Shippening Part 2. As it's about Mr. Small using a crystal to predict who in the class will end up with each other, resulting in a lot of just weird ships. And of course, one of these ships being Tobias and Penny, which Gumball and her joke off at first. But as the episode continues, Gumball starts to worry that Mr. Small's prediction might be true as he sees all these other relationships coming true. And then trying to spice things up between him and Penny, he literally gets spice powder in their eyes, and Tobias then comes in to take her to the nurse. But as he tells her not to go with him, she tells him to stop stressing. But of course he doesn't, and gets a tuxedo and flowers and sets up this whole big surprise for her, and she does not take it the way that he wanted it to at all. As she says that she thought they were fine, but if Gumball is doing all this just to prove that they are, then maybe they're not. So she breaks up with Gumball, turning back into her wolf form from the episode The Shell, which made the whole thing hit that much harder. But Gumball then confronts Mr. Small and destroys his crystal, and Gumball wakes up in this like Doctor Strange multiverse looking place with a giant Mr. Small above him, surrounded by star signs and zodiac symbols, and then tries to explain to Gumball using terms like his Mercury is retrograde and her Saturn is rising. And Gumball says, what does that even mean? Which was valid as hell. I don't believe in any of the zodiac sign stuff and find the people that do actually insufferable. But Gumball then says that what they have is real, and Mr. Small then says that he apparently passed his cosmic test. But of course he was lying and just creates this massive black hole planet that sucks Gumball up before he's woken up to being surrounded by people in hazmat suits that revealed that the crystal was made out of hazardous materials, which basically were making everyone horny for each other. Gumball is then wheeled out into the hallway, and Penny of course runs up to him worried, and Gumball then apologizes and she forgives him, and the two then say they love each other, ending the episode with the two back together and overall on a really wholesome note. This episode is solid. Gumball making fun of zodiac signs and people that think they can tell the future or determine their future based off it was pretty funny, and then the incorporation of Gumball and Penny breaking up and coming back together because of it was also done pretty well. It's always good to see more moments between them. The only bad part about this episode was Tobias doing this shit with his nipples, but if you just ignore that, which I will continue to do, this episode is a B tier for me. Episode 8, The Cheerleader. Gumball and Darwin go through their parents' old belongings and find what they believe is their mother's diary, as it has a whole passage about their dream to be a cheerleader. But then Richard comes in revealing that it was actually his diary, and we get a flashback of him as a kid in a cheerleader outfit telling his mom that he wants to be a flyer. But she makes him leave and give up on his dream, saying that success doesn't run in the Watterson family, and we then get this cool shot of Richard's ancestors all looking down on him. But they then decide that they're gonna get Richard to achieve his dream of becoming a cheerleader so they can get rid of the trauma that's been taking hold of their family for generations. So they more or less put Richard on a training arc to get over his fears, all leading up to the tryouts, which for some reason they actually let him join despite being an adult. But regardless, his mom shows up right before he's about to do the tryout, of course making him visualize his ancestors telling him that he couldn't do it, but his family tells him not to listen to them, and he just locks in and starts doing backflips all the way into Gumball and Darwin's arms, who then become super ripped, in order to lift him into the air, where he does the most graceful flip of all time and sticks the landing, shocking the audience and the judges, who give him a perfect 10 as he passes the tryouts. And then his mom is all of a sudden like, ah yes, that's my Richard, and Nicole says, not, that's our Richard. Genuinely fuck her, bruh. I've never liked her, and now I don't even more. How are you gonna shit on his whole dream his entire life just for the moment when he exceeds to all of a sudden change your entire view on it and act as if you had believed in him his entire life? Yeah, she is genuinely the worst type of parent to exist. But anyways, I'm gonna rank this episode a C tier. It's not that bad, but not that good at the same time. It's just a pretty average episode. Episode 9, The Boring. Gumball and Darwin ignore Tina the T-Rex and step onto her drawing, which they then say looks like a bunch of stuff that it just isn't, which results in Tina saying that she's gonna beat them up as soon as it hits 3 p.m. and Gumball and Darwin try to escape this fate, but end up running into Molly, of course making them instantly bored to the point where time literally freezes. But they then abuse this ability to mess with people and then literally do the fusion stance from Dragon Ball to begin their training arc to begin for their fight with Tina, in which they master the elements, which could be either a Mortal Kombat or an Avatar reference. But once they finish their training and unfreeze time, they walk into school with these magic night outfits but smell like shit because they've apparently been training for 100 years. But then the black bars in the episode get bigger as they do this epic movie-like scene as the two muster up all their newfound power into a ball, which was literally just a Kamehameha. This episode is so Dragon Ball or just anime inspired in general, but the power ball then just does absolutely nothing to Tina, which was also just really funny. But Tina then entraps them in her claws and Molly comes up and then freezes time again, resulting in them to be stuck unless they listen to what Molly has to say, in which we get this beautiful shot of her explaining to them that Tina's drawing was honoring the extinction of the dinosaurs and that the two should be more considerate and listen, giving a genuine good life lesson to Gumball and Darwin, which makes them actually be mature and apologize to Tina, and that Molly helped them learn the errors of their ways, and Tina actually accepts the apology as they're with her, showing that Tina and Molly actually are just tight with each other, I guess, which is pretty cool. Gumball and Darwin then tell Molly thank you and try to apologize for ignoring her and thinking that she's boring before. But then time slows down as she gets the magic night costume that we saw them wear earlier and says that they're boring, which genuinely just ruined her entire character for me. Like, how do you redeem yourself from being this boring character to someone who seems mature with good advice to instantly removing that by being an absolute hypocrite? I don't know, I hated that ending, but besides that, the episode was cool. The Gumball and Darwin training arc with anime references and this cinematic cutscene of them powering up just for it to not work was peak as hell, animation and humor wise. But still, with that said, The Boring for me is a B tier. Episode 10, The Teacher. Gumball gets his phone taken from him during class and follows Miss Simeon as she forgets to give it back to him, but catches her stealing from the trophy case. So he then continues to follow her, but gets knocked out after jumping in front of her car, and then when he wakes up, he lies to her saying that he was following her because he was inspired to be a teacher, and then she says that he's stuck with her for a while as she doesn't have time to drop him off. But Miss Simeon then chases Salvatore and basically jumps him, saying to give her stuff back, which I'm assuming he stole. And Gumbo calls the police and tells them what's happening, but Salvatore throws a spoon at him, and despite missing, still causes Gumbo to pass out. And then he wakes up to Salvatore tied up by Miss Simeon, who then tries to tell Gumball that a teacher's job is to take care of the young mind and change the world one child at a time, which makes Gumball think that she was gonna murder him. But we then find out that the stuff that Salvatore stole from Miss Simeon was stolen by Russo, their gym teacher, who they then have another epic car chase scene with as Gumball jumps into her vehicle and steals the bag, and Russo's car just goes flying, and Frankie then makes a cameo, giving him a 10, which was pretty funny. Miss Simeon then takes Gumball to a creepy cave, but it's quickly revealed that this is actually where she lived, which is really sad, but it makes a lot of sense. She also says that she was only stealing stuff because teachers have the hustle, and that she was doing this to actually buy the kids all new laptops, which is genuinely one of the best or most nice things that she has ever done, and was really unexpected for a character. And Gumball then asks where all the school money went, as their school is literally broke, so you would assume that she used that to buy the laptops. And we then get this sick animation of the cops getting robot dogs, helicopters, jet skis, and jetpacks, so I guess that's where it all went. And Gumball freaks out thinking that the cops would be coming for Miss Simeon, but she's just like, nah, it's fine, I taught half the police, as we then cut to Salvatore getting swarmed, and the cops then just throw the robot dogs at him, wasting literally all of the school's budget for no reason. Miss Simeon then tells Gumball that she actually thinks that Gumball would make a good teacher, which inspires him at first, but as she says that he'll get no respect, money, support, life, or love, he runs away just saying no thank you. Honestly, Gumball becoming a teacher would make so much sense and feel so full circle when just looking at this entire series really being about learning life lessons or about the state of the world in general. So hopefully Gumball revisits the idea when he gets older, because I would love to see that one day. I didn't really like this episode on my first watch and was honestly planning to put it a lot lower, but now I honestly really do. So the teacher is going in B tier. I considered putting it in A, but that just felt a little too high, as there's definitely just better episodes. Episode 11, the app. Gumball and Darwin want to get a new phone to join the new app called ClicksApp, and then their mom says that people on Elmore Plus have said that it's dangerous, and Gumball says, you're still on Elmore Plus? When it comes to this stuff, we're a bit more savvy than you old folks, showing instantly this episode was going to be about Gen Z versus boomers, TikTok versus Facebook, and the overall trendy new waves of social media. Nicole then kicks them out of the car and the police show up, and she just uses him as a tire on the car, which is really funny. And Gumball and Darwin then stumble upon the homeless guy who tries to get them these glasses that will apparently show them how corrupt the world is, and they put them on and they then see this just grayness and billboards telling them not to think and to feel bad about themselves, but they genuinely just don't care and go to get their new phone anyways. And of course they skip over the terms and conditions like everyone does, and then try to make some funny videos, but quickly get interrupted by the homeless man telling them to stop and to look at what ClicksApp is doing to their fellow kids, as we see Tobias filming some TikTok dances, which was very on brand for his character, but then he turns into a brainless zombie. But despite in reality looking like this on the app, he just looks normal and fine, just poking fun at the fake acts that people put on for content's sake. We then see everyone else in Elmore doing these literal TikTok trends that are genuine memes in real life, but seeing this, Gumball and Darwin say that they're not gonna fall for it or join the app, which results in the brain ratified zombies that come after them saying like and subscribe, making fun of YouTubers who only care about that and nothing else. They then run away, and the homeless guy then says that he knows so much about this app because he actually created it, and that this isn't the first time he created one either, and the last time it resulted in more or less the same thing. The zombies then break in, and Gumball and Darwin run to the cell tower to stop this madness, as the, I guess, not so homeless guy gets attacked by the zombies, which they then just do not care about, as he low-key deserved it. And we then get two more meme references in the same shot of Darwin weaving this pole and this guy literally just mewing in the background. They then throw their old phone as it's about to explode at the cell tower, and the whole thing just goes up in flames, sending them flying. And they then walk through the street thinking that they saved everyone, but everyone was still a zombie. And we see that nothing changed because the store behind them has free Wi-Fi, which of course it does. Nicole then comes in flying with the car, but as they get in, she says that she joined ClicksApp and then becomes infected as well. And then Tobias' dad joins in as well, which makes him just cringe and not want to use the app anymore and delete the app on the spot, which was fucking fucking hilarious. And this same thing happens with literally everyone. Their parents joining, them cringing, and then instantly deleting it. And then once again, the not so homeless guy shows up and says that ClickSap isn't stopping and tries to warn them. But once again, they just don't care because they know this will never end. There's always going to be a new app that distracts everyone and turns them into a mindless zombie. It's just nature taking its course. I really like this episode. Once again, discussing something happening in the real world and making fun of it. And honestly, I love the amount of just meme references within it. I can also see the whole brain rot infection virus thing being made into an AU like the Joy virus. But with that said, the app is going in A tier. Episode 12, The Entrance. Tobias invites everyone in the school to a party, and Gumball and Darwin, not knowing whether they want to go or not, they ask their girlfriends Penny and Carrie, and they say despite it sounding awful, they have nothing else better to do. And then she tells Carrie to get on the party bus as she gets on her back, and the two just gallop through the hallway. There is something actually wrong with them, and yet at the same time, I still want what they have. I really like them showing that the two were good friends and maybe just as close as Gumball and Darwin. But they then plan out how the party's gonna go, with them coming fashionably late, dripped out of their mind, and everyone turning to them, all getting hype, and Penny throws Gumball in the air, and we just cut back to reality as he's literally just flying, and then Darwin just starts flying as well. I love when they just all of a sudden can do crazy shit with the only explanation being that this is an animated cartoon. But the two then go home only to see that no one else has accepted their invites to the party, so they look for gifts they can give people to lure them into going. And Darwin stumbles upon a bottle of cologne or cologne, which I thought would actually be cologne that would make whoever uses it just smell really good or possibly really bad. But as they test it out, a black shadow comes out and the two begin to just smile creepily as hell. And so the joy part 2 begins as they tell Larry to give it to every kid in Elmore before dropping it and infecting him as well. And they then try on multiple different outfits and hairstyles in the bathroom before we cut to the bathroom actually just looking destroyed, and Gumball and Darwin just looking actually tweaked out of their minds, showing this whole montage may have just been a hallucination or actually happened and did not look like this. But realizing that they're late to the party, they panic and put on more of this cologne, which once again just instantly makes them smile creepily. And then we cut to them running through the street and just the most trippy but cool animation ever. I did not expect to get an episode where Gumball and Darwin literally do drugs and tweak out. I really don't know how they managed to get this to air on Disney Plus. This genuinely felt like it should have been on Adult Swim. Gumball and Darwin's energy then completely crashes and they just act drunk as hell, and Darwin bites Gumball's tongue, and the two just start fighting and blaming each other with their voices changing to lower and higher pitches. Once again, I don't know how they managed to get this aired. But they then order a ride to get them to Tobias' house, but we then cut to them there with the driver's car just burning. Which we see happen because they were genuinely just scaring the shit out of him. And I can see why. These two are terrifying while high or drunk or whatever they are. But right as they're about to go into Tobias' party, the cops show up and arrest them for infecting everyone in town and in general being a public nuisance, before revealing that Tobias actually was the one who reported them as he was angry they ruined his party. But him yelling at them resulted in the cop to jump, and for the bottle of cologne he was holding to fly out of his hands, and as it hits the ground, a giant shadow is set free. And the animation of the entire episode changes as Gumball and Darwin just tweak out, seeing themselves mutate and fuse into monsters. And then the green goo attacks the cops, and the cop rips his head off. And then we see the skate park area, which revealed the scene was actually animated by this guy named Neckface, who I didn't know until I researched after watching this episode. But yeah, they went crazy. I can't even explain what's happening, but it looks sick nonetheless. But we then cut back to reality as they crash the cop car into the wall of the police station, where we see everyone else also is. And then they just all party as they get locked in a cell. And meanwhile, Tobias was just sad and alone at his party as he thinks no one's gonna show up. But then an anime girl knocks on his door asking if this is the millionaire boys party, and Tobias of course says she can come in, but then she takes off a mask revealing it was a criminal, and actually an entire group of criminals, who then just fucking jump him, which was hilarious and very well deserved. The concept of Gumball and Darwin being on drugs being an episode didn't cross my mind to even possibly be a plot they ever did, but seeing it actually happen with some of the most trippy and cool animated visuals with just so many expressive faces and colors and styles made this episode easily one of my favorites of the series, and honestly all of Gumball as a whole. So with that said, the entrance is without a doubt an S tier for me. Episode 13, The Letter. Darwin writes Carrie a romantic letter, and Gumball warns him that she might react to it badly since she's literally from the underworld, but he puts it in her locker regardless, and then right on cue, Penny and Carrie come walking through the hallway, and Gumball and Penny of course run toward each other, and then literally rub their affection in Darwin's face. Carrie then gets grossed out, and Penny says, "Sorry, I forgot you hate it when people show affection," and Carrie says she doesn't hate it, but finds it cringy, nerdy, gross, which of course crushes poor Darwin. Gumball tries to help him by saying what if it's in a really cute way, like saying I love you, but Carrie then takes over his body and just slams him against the lockers, and then saying to never say that to someone from the underworld, just as he predicted might happen if Darwin did. So now Gumball and Darwin try to get the letter back from her bag, which Gumball then gets eaten by, but manages to escape from being even grosser than it somehow. They then instantly get the letter stuck on Hector, who comes in clutch, giving Darwin back the letter, but as he begins to dance in happiness, Miss Simeon calls him to the front of the class so he could read it for everyone. But as he begins to read it, it's quickly shown that this isn't his letter and actually was just a letter from Hector telling Darwin why it wouldn't work out, which was pretty funny. But then of course makes Carrie think that he was cheating on her, which causes her to just freak out and create cracks in the school with monsters coming out of them, in which we get this really cool animated shot of Darwin evading all of it as he runs through the hallway after her. She then calls Darwin a Lothario, and we just cut from this intense scene between the two to Gumball just asking what a Lothario is, with this really just awkward moment of them standing still waiting for him to finish. Darwin then just continues to ignore him and tells Carrie that the letter was a whole misunderstanding, and that he actually wrote her a letter saying that he loves her but was scared to give it to her after hearing that people from the underworld hate hearing that. But Carrie then takes over Gumball's body and kisses him as Gumball. I don't know why they did this. We've seen Carrie kiss him without having to go in anyone's body before, so this was just a very weird decision that didn't make much sense. Maybe it was just for the shock value of it, I'm not sure. But the two then hug, and Gumball goes back to normal, who then just starts awkwardly monologuing about the day and how he was glad that he was able to help for once, and then says that he'll always have his back, but then says not forever before imagining himself in Carrie's body at their wedding kissing, and tells Darwin not to imagine it. And then some more just awkward hugging before Carrie eventually leaves his body and says that he ruined the moment. I liked this episode. All of the Carrie x Darwin shipping stuff was wholesome, and her like ruining the school and making this tornado was cool as hell. But yeah, this ending was just weird. Carrie going in the Gumball's body to kiss him, and then just the awkward hugging for literally like 2 minutes. It felt like they genuinely just didn't know how to end it. I was initially gonna rank this episode a B tier, but I think because of that, it honestly moves this down to a C tier. Episode 14, The Gut. Gumball and Darwin go through their fridge only to find that it's full of expired foods, and they then pour out the milk, which was just turned into a solid block. But as it hits the floor, Richard runs in and sucks it up, saying 5-second rule. I get bro is fat, but goddamn man. Richard then gets distracted from Anais trying to explain a science project that she made due to this, but she then shows them that it's actually a device that makes plants be able to talk. But Gumball and Darwin then decide to put it on a hot dog, and Anais says that that won't work before they fight over it, and of course it ends up on the floor, resulting in Richard to just suck it up, resulting in Anais to be sad, thinking that she was foolish for expecting him to understand what she made. But then the device now being inside of Richard's gut, where about every food known to mankind resides, it becomes its own being able to talk, and of course it's just super smart and instantly begins to bond with Anais. And Richard gets jealous and tries to show that he's a better dad than this new gut dad, and paints a drawing of the two together showing that he truly is. And then as predicted, the gut becomes evil, but then literally like temporarily kills Richard, which was really dark. But they then take just about the most disgusting expired food covered in mushrooms in the back of their fridge and throw it on the ground, causing Richard to of course suck it up, which then kills the gut monster and turns Richard back to normal, ending the episode with a wholesome moment between him and Anais, and then Richard just throwing everything up before Nicole comes home saying that she brought dinner, and of course he just says I can eat with a smile as if nothing just happened. Richard's desperate attempts to show his love for his daughter and just how much he truly cares for her, or just his kids in general, was really sweet, and the gut monster actually made for a pretty good villain. But with that said, the gut is still a B tier episode at best. Episode 15, The Wrinkle. Despite being literally 4 years old, Anais already begins to get wrinkles due to her family always stressing her out, and Nicole tells her that she doesn't have to worry about them before Richard instantly manages to get himself hurt by being being an idiot as always. But Anais then says that she's prepared for their future problems for the next 40 years. As she pulls out a book and says that she found an academy that will toughen up Darwin, got a top lawyer for Gumball, which he most definitely is going to be needing, and a retirement home for Nicole and Richard to go when they retire. But they then decide to actually do all of these plans now so she can stop worrying about them. So Darwin goes to this mysterious castle before introducing himself to this creepy guy in a mask and saying that he's here to be rebuilt as a weapon. As we then get this epic montage of Darwin being initiated into their organization, in which they put him through all types of torture, as he just smiles through literally all of it, which was hilarious. And then once he's in, he gets their mask and we see him just become a full-on spy ninja, which was so fucking cool. But after all of it, they take his mask off to see if he's been changed, and yet he still smiles, which makes them freak out and say that he's the unbreakable from their prophecy. And then when he leaves, they decide to become cute like him. I love this bit so much. We then see Gumball's new lawyer listing all of the crimes that he's committed throughout the Amazing World of Gumball, and yeah, let's just say it's a lot. The lawyer then tells him to stop doing anything, but despite this, he still manages to completely destroy the room, knock himself out, and so the cops come and end up arresting his lawyer as she looks completely guilty. Trouble just genuinely follows bro wherever he goes. Richard and Nicole then begin their new life as retired parents, well, at least somewhat retired, as Richard never had a job to even retire from, as we saw what happened the last time he tried to have one. Richard then of course ends up pissing all of the cows on their farm off, causing Nicole to just look like she was about to kill him, before we see Anais now just absolutely covered in wrinkles, because despite all of her planning, it was futile to believe that she could save her family from the fates that they are clearly destined to live. But we then just get the coolest hand-drawn animation I have ever seen, as Gumball jumps in a book and sings about how she should be like them and not worry about the future because there's no point. Whatever happens is gonna happen. There's no changing it, and no matter what, it's all just a part of helping you grow. Darwin then sings about how if he stuck to the path that was quote-unquote made for him, he would still just be living in the ocean and never even would have been a part of this family or met Gumball at all. And that sometimes you just have to go for things in life and take the risk, because it could genuinely change it for the better. This was such a good, cute way to retell the story of the origins, but such a good message in general. We then get an animated song version of The Choices as well, as Nicole sings about how she lived her life how it was once again quote-unquote decided it would be, as her parents were more or less trying to force her to live this whole other life, that if she lived, she would have never met Richard, and the whole family would have never even been born, and they never would have met Darwin or anything. And then they all sing together as Anais even now joins in, realizing how right they are. This song is easily my favorite from the entire show, and maybe even in my top songs from all of Gumball as a whole. It literally made me tear up while rewatching it to make this. I just love the overall message of it and really relate to it on a personal level. But anyways, we then cut to reality with the doctor confused as they just randomly sung a song and jumped out the window, which was really funny. But the family then hugs and Anais says she understands, but then says that she's not going to be helping the family whatsoever, so she doesn't worry about them, which then causes all of them to get wrinkles, knowing that they were absolutely fucked without her help. A lot of the endings, like I said earlier, I haven't really liked or found funny, but this one actually had me laughing. Needless to say, I love this episode, and it's going in S tier with no buts about it. Episode 16, The Gourmet. Gumball and Darwin begin to get tired of their school lunch being the same every day, and then they see Masami is eating like the most good-looking gourmet mac and cheese, and so of course Gumball decides that he's gonna do everything in his power to eat it. So he asks his mom to make it, but Gumball says that he can't eat it as it literally looks inedible. So Nicole says, okay, so go live with the Yoshidas since they're so much better, showing that she's most definitely not over the beef between her and Yuki as she transforms into her anime form again. But Gumball then actually goes to their house, which is just a big ass mansion with a butler and a private cook who is literally just Gordon Ramsay. Nicole then shows up to get Gumball, and as her and Yuki see each other again, the animation changes into the anime style again. It was so cool to see them bring this back. But as Yuki was about to fight her, Nicole's just like, nah, I'm not doing that again. Which a part of me would have loved to see that, but seeing Nicole has matured even more and gotten past it was honestly better. Nicole then sees Gumball, who has seemingly been transformed into a Yoshida, but of course he was just faking it in order to get the mac and cheese. Gumball then apologizes to Nicole, and then she tells him that even though they might have less than them, that doesn't make them any less than them. But Gumball then reveals how how much shit talking Yuki did about her, and Nicole just goes fucking Super Saiyan. And her and Gumball use a remote control to just mess with all the technology in their house. And then right as they're about to dip, the butler and private chef say that they hate Yuki and go with them. So at the end of the day, they won and didn't even have to throw a punch. I really like the concept of this episode. Gumball wanting to have all the rich food, belittling what he has, and the backstory of Nicole and Yuki tying into it, with her of course being the one with the rich people food, and just how it causes this tension between her and Gumball before eventually causing them to work together to make her life worse. It was genuinely just a good mother-son episode all around. And so with that said, the Gourmet is going in A tier. Episode 17, The Pool. Gumball, Darwin, and Richard struggle to beat the heat on one of the hottest days of the month, trying to swim in a little pool just for the water to boil and dissolve in front of their eyes. But they then see that Mr. Robinson has an AC, which they stand in front of until he notices and of course closes his window, but they don't mind as they see that he has a big pool in their backyard. They ask him if they can swim in it, but he says no and calls them poor. So they try to ask his wife, who at first seems like she genuinely feels bad and says yes, but then gives them shoes with cylinders on them, showing that she was just straight capping and is just as evil as she's always been. Shoulda known. Richard then digs into the pool from below, but of course that causes the water to just flood into the hole and send them flying. And Richard then tells Gumball and Darwin to fix it as he goes to distract Mr. Robinson, saying that he's sorry for harassing him and that he just wants his kids to have everything they need, which causes Mr. Robinson to cry, saying that he won't let them swim in the pool because the person that he built it for never got to. Before we just get this flashback of him working and then saying that he missed his son's childhood and built the pool for him. But Gumball and Darwin then come back with his son and say that he would love to go swimming with them. But since the pool was now destroyed by them, they panic trying to fix it. But as nothing works, they put a fake pool over it, and Mr. Robinson and Rocky jump in and just fall in the hole, and then telling them to join in, and the episode then ends with them all besides Rocky getting what they honestly deserved. This episode is really whatever. It's kind of fun, but nothing too crazy. So with that said, the pool for me is a C tier. Episode 18, The Portrait. The Watersons want to take a new family photo, as every picture they've taken together before makes their family look weird. But right as they're about to take the picture, Richard's mom and Louie show up saying that they want to be in the photo. And then once again, just as they're about to take the photo, Nicole's mom shows up at the door, revealing that she's actually dating this toucan guy now. And then her dad shows up as well and begins to argue with him, showing that the two are going through some form of divorce. But then again, right as they're all about to finally take the picture, Richard's dad, Frankie, shows up with his new girlfriend, who is also his correctional officer. Richard asks how he found out about the picture, and he says that he can get anything in jail for the right price, before showing that he got a cursed tattoo of Richard's face, which Richard then replicates, which caught me so off guard. But we then go back inside to the kids messing with a cursed box, Granny Jojo and Louie trying to wager on a fight between the toucan and Nicole's dad. But Frankie then yells at everyone to go outside to get the picture taken. But then as they're finally about to get it, Frankie gets in the car and escapes, as his correctional officer then calls the cops, throwing the blame on everyone else as they instantly just get swarmed. So they run inside and barricade the door with a couch, which Larry for some reason was taped under. But they then have him take the picture of them, but of course right before it's taken, the police break down the door. But as we cut to them being released from jail, they manage to get the camera back, which actually took the picture, and at first it looked perfect, but then they zoom out to just seeing them swarmed by the police, and Nicole instantly just takes the picture down, ending the episode with Nicole not getting the family picture she so desperately wanted and tried so hard to get, and even eventually all of the others after seeing how badly she wanted it. I don't know, I felt kind of unsatisfied, and like, what was the point? I feel like if they actually managed to get the picture after all their efforts and ended the episode with like a wholesome family moment of everyone coming together, I would have liked it a lot better. If it wasn't for the ending, this episode would be a lot higher, but yeah, it's gonna be a C tier for me. Episode 19, The Climb. During gym class, they're assigned to climb a rock wall, which Gumball is scared to do because the last time he climbed it, he dropped his harness, which pulled down his pants, leaving him with only two options: to either drop his pants fully or fall off the wall. So he drops his pants, resulting in everyone to see his butt and laugh at him. Yeah, no wonder he was scared to climb it again. Darwin then tries to help him get over his fears by having him climb the tiny wall in the preschoolers playground, but he can't even do that as he was genuinely traumatized. He then gets Anais to make him a robot suit to help him climb the wall, but as soon as he touches it, he begins to just freak out. So he goes to Mr. Small for help, but passes out from boredom and then wakes up on a metaphorical mountain where he speaks to his pants, who tells him to drop his past, or in other words, let go of his pants. So he goes to climb the wall, this time with no fear, and yeah, just literally takes off his pants in front of everyone with his dick and ass out, ending the episode with the teacher saying they're definitely getting fired. This is probably the most OG feeling Gumball episode in the entire series. It's not good, it's not bad, just feels like a very classic wild school episode, but focuses a lot more on humor than plot this time. And the humor is obviously very very kiddish. It's funny at times, but also very cringe at others. So with that said, The Climb is a D tier episode. Episode 20, The Amadane. Gumball returns to Penny's house thinking that her family wasn't there and that the two would just be hanging out and not have to deal with any of the drama that always seems to ensue whenever Gumball comes over. But then of course her dad shows up and Penny says that it's her grandma's 80th birthday and the whole clan is coming. Her dad then asks her why she brought her quote-unquote Amadane boyfriend. And she says that he's gonna help her stand up to this backwards family, and Gumball tries to get away while he can. But then the clan shows up, and her dad then makes them both put on shelves. And as they begin the party, Penny begins to mess with Gumball, telling him to do a bunch of stuff that just goes against their tradition, or just makes them mad at him until he runs to hide in the bathroom, where he then destroys the shell and begins to just shit talk her family to himself. But it turns out her grandma was also in the bathroom and heard everything. Gumball then tells her that Penny came out of her shell and has to deal with it, and she walks away looking mad. Before Penny comes in, and Gumball says that he stood up for her, and she says thank you, and they two share a wholesome hug before being chased by her family as her grandma says to bring them to her. And as they corner him, they say it's time to show him the true nature of their clan, before taking off their shells, revealing all of their true forms, which have some of the coolest designs ever. But they then go back into their shells and say that they only wear them out of tradition, but took them off to show him that Penny and him are welcome just as they are. As Penny then tells Gumball, welcome to the family. But Gumball then says, fuck no, I'm never coming back. But her dad then whispers in his ear that he can use the karaoke machine, and that seems to change his mind. I really didn't like how we disrespected them all and literally would have refused to join their family if not for this karaoke machine. It was just so rude and so stupid of a reason, to the point where it really made it not funny. Some of the endings are good, but some of them just made me like the episodes a lot less, which really is disappointing because a lot of them were so good and would just be better without them or have done differently. And yeah, that definitely goes for this episode as well. Besides that though, Gumball being involved in her family traditions and them all coming out of their shell to make him feel like he belongs here and that they're not going to treat him or Penny any differently for not having a shell or just not wearing one was really wholesome and a really good way to end the drama from the previous series about the subject. And so with that said, the Amadane is going in A tier, ending the series and this video on a pretty good note. We don't know when the next 20 episodes are going to release yet, but when they do, I'll be ranking those as well, and then probably combining this video with that one and posting one big ranking video of all the episodes. So be sure to turn notifications on, drop a like, and subscribe to the channel. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.